for joining us here on Nighttime. Always like to remind you, go to the website, NightTimeHawaii.tv, and you can find out what kind of guests we got coming up. And I tell you what, we've got a good one for you right now. Gentlemen, we know as, well, he was a sportscaster, then he was a newscaster, then he was an executive and decided to come back to newscasting, and I think television is a better place for it. Please help me welcome Ron Bumatai. What?
Why? That was hilarious. Richard Hendricks.
Oh, man. You recognize that. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am showing my age.
Well, I tell you what, you know, we want to talk about the sportscaster thing, but, you know, so many people were wondering. You left, you know, you were on top of your game, and you went to be an executive at, was it Hawaiian Tel?
Hawaiian Telcom.
Okay, how many people said, Ron, what are you thinking?
Besides my wife? Well, actually, you know, after 22 years, I thought it was time for a change.
Yeah.
And I always thought I wanted to be a CEO. And I thought this was an opportunity. My father had worked for the company for 40 years. Yeah. And I said, you know what, let's give it a go. Prayed hard on it, and I gave it a go. But
yeah.
Once I started getting through that, I mean, executive title was nice, but it wasn't for me. And I have nothing but love for the folks at Hawaiian Telcom, every single one of them. But
what was lacking when you found yourself in the position? Was it the creativity?
You know, is that I'm such a people guy, and I spent 20 years telling stories, meeting people letting me into their living rooms, sharing with me intimate stories of pain, suffering. I mean, I cried with viewers, I laughed with viewers, you know, shared Akebono's retirement in Japan with him, and I did so many wonderful, exciting things with people. And then I found myself in boardroom meetings 3, 4, 5, up 6 hours a day sometimes. And then I'd start work. And I'd take that work home. And it was heavy on the family. And I realized slowly that I miss telling stories.
So it was just the communication one-on-one, if you will, even though on television we call it one-on-one.
Right.
But there's an intimacy to this that you missed in the...
I missed, you know, I would, like, Super Furry came. I'd be in my office and going, oh my gosh, I would have been there.
You would have been there?
I would have been on Kauai.
Of course.
With my peeps. But I would have been there, you know, telling that story and hearing both sides and sharing that. And I miss my friends and my colleagues. And every time some big story happened, my good buddy Greg Lau, who's a videographer at KHON, said, you miss it, huh, bro? And you know what, truthfully, at the first I would say, no, I'm doing good. This is good. This is good for my family. After a while, I would say, yeah, I miss it. I miss it.
You know what, though? I'll tell you what, though. You know, a lot of people thought you were nuts.
Besides my wife?
Yeah, besides your wife. But you know what? I give you credit because so many people, you know, they don't know where the edge is because they never fell off. And you said, that's the edge. Boom, you went head on into it. And you went, oh, you know what? But at least you were smart enough to go, hey, mistake, sorry, erase, and boom, came back.
You know what, though? The day I made the decision to leave Hawaiian Telcom, I mean, I literally had nothing waiting for me. I took the total leap of faith. So I was unemployed for 2 months.
Woo!
And without a paycheck, and talk about the wife.
Yeah.
That was tough. It was tough on my family. We had to tighten our belts. We had to get creative, odds and ends, and doing things, you know, with the family, and it was tough. But
tightening your belt is not something that is unfamiliar with. You're unfamiliar with, as I understand your background. I mean, didn't you start at a very early age? And
I was 12. I was 12 years old when I got. I started KHON young. I was 19 years old at the time.
That's very young.
Very young. So you know, I was fortunate and blessed. In fact, my career kind of quickly took off.
You started in sports.
Started in sports with Les Kiter. I learned with the general. Hey kid, he still calls me kid to this day. Hey kid, you did a great job. I love it. In fact, it was the general who actually convinced me to have the patience to maintain. I was actually going to be a cop. I was 2 days away from entering the police force.
You look like a cop.
Thank you. You got a problem with that? I shouldn't say that. Some of my best friends are cops, and I would have been, you know, in the force 20 plus years. But the general said no. He noticed that I shaved my head one day. I was in top shape, and I said, I'm entering the force. He said, no, you're not. No, you're not, kid. And
is that right?
And
it's funny to think that had you gone into the police force today, you'd be retired.
I would have been.
You'd be out. Well, no, I'll go fishing, Andy. Wait, but now you're.
But no regrets. And you know, I got to tell you a funny story, because when I first started getting some popularity, if you will, somebody would see me driving, and I had a Cherokee, and I seriously threw my gear on the top. I was going to the gym, and I was driving, and the guys was like, "Hey, Mr. Tani, on the top."
From school days.
From the school days, and I was like, at the time, I was like, "Oh, thanks, I worked hard to get here." True story. And they finally like, "No, bro, your shoes on the top," and I was like, "Oh my God, Bumatai."
Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more of Ron Mizutani with Nighttime Returns, and he's on top. Oh, wow.
I learned early from my coaches that success comes from a lot of hard work. Then about 2 years ago, I thought my career might be over because of extreme pain in my shoulder. I couldn't practice, I could hardly even compete. I could have gone to any surgeon in the country, but I came to trust the bone and joint specialist at Straub because a coach of mine is one of them. They treated my shoulder, and now with their help, I'm back. When it really mattered, I chose Straub.